Yes, sir! The LA Clippers deserve better than Paul George. I personally have no respect for Paul George as a basketball player. I don't know him as a man, but as a basketball player, I have no respect for him. What's up, MDB fam? We back with another video. Today's video, we're talking about Paul George and the comments that he recently made on the All the Smoke podcast. In general, I'm just going to be talking about how I feel about what he was saying on the All the Smoke podcast and how I feel about Paul George's character in general and why I think the Clippers deserve better than Paul George. So let's get straight into it. As you guys know, Paul George, star player on the Clippers. I guess you could call him a star. I'm not going to say he's not a star. He's definitely a star player, but last season was disappointing for the Clippers. They got eliminated from the playoffs. They were up 3-1 against the Nuggets, ended up losing to the Nuggets in 7 games. I believe Paul George in Game 7 of that series went 4 for 16. So that's why some of these comments that he made in the All the Smoke podcast are rubbing me the wrong way. So let's get into it. So Paul George, my biggest issue with this guy, he takes no accountability for what happens to him. He takes no accountability for the things that happen to him as part of a basketball team. He acts like these things are just all out of his control and there's nothing he can do. And then when the things happen, he wants to come back and talk shit. So on the All the Smoke podcast, that's a podcast hosted by Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, ex-NBA players. Shout out to those guys. Shout out to the podcast. Paul George was recently a guest on that show. And he made a few comments that just rubbed me the wrong way. So the first comment that he made was about the Clippers. He said, "Oh, we didn't practice enough. We didn't practice enough." That's what he said. And he the way he said it was like that was in Doc Rivers' hands as to why they didn't practice enough. He'd be like, okay, we'd run into issues in games. And he's like, during practices, you could iron out these issues so that the next time you get into a game, those issues don't reoccur. But Paul George is saying they didn't practice enough, so those issues would linger and they would re-show up in games. The thing I find funny about that is that teammates on the Clippers have come out in the past and they said that they didn't like how Paul George was receiving preferential treatment when he has no playoff acumen. Pretty much players on the Clippers were like, Paul George, what have you accomplished in the playoffs that makes you deserve better treatment than us? They understood Kawhi coming to the team after just winning Finals MVP, winning a championship with the Raptors, why he might receive some preferential treatment. But the teammates didn't like the fact that Paul George was also receiving this preferential treatment. The treatment included Kawhi and Paul George had their own personal security guards, their own personal trainers, and they had control over the practice schedule. What does that mean, boys? So that means if Kawhi Leonard or Paul George one day decided, I'm kind of tired, let's not do practice today, coach. They had that power. Or, coach, I'm kind of tired from last night. Let's not do shoot around this morning. They had that power. So if Paul George and Kawhi have that power, and now Paul George wants to come around and say that he feels like they didn't practice enough, bro, you're part of that reason. You're part of the reason why y'all not practicing enough. It's fully within your power to say, coach, I think we had a bad game last night. I think we need to get a practice in. So if you're saying that Doc Rivers is not scheduling practices, then you as a star player and other teammates on your team have said that you and Kawhi have the power to call for practices and call off practices. If you wanted more practices, you could have called those practices. But you didn't want practices because you're a simp and a bitch and all you want to do is fucking complain, bro. I'm talking about you as a basketball player. I have no problems with Paul George as a man. He's a father. He's a husband. He's doing his thing. I don't know this guy. I'm talking about his decisions as a basketball maker. You're a bitch as a basketball maker, as a basketball player. Like, bro, you can't complain about there not being enough practices when that's your power. That's within your hands. Your teammates are literally like, bro, what have you accomplished in the playoffs that you're receiving better treatment than us? We're a team. Before you got here, we made it to the playoffs without you, and we gave the Warriors a run for their money when they had Durant. What have you ever accomplished, bro? Yes, you went to the conference finals against Miami in the East. That was it, bro. That was it. You never done anything else other than that. You know what you did do? You got embarrassed by Damian Lillard. And that was another time you decided not to take accountability. Damian Lillard pulls a step back 3 from about 30 feet out in your face. Step back three in your face. You barely got your hand up. You barely got your hand up in time. Most lackadaisical defense I ever seen in a game-winning situation in a Game 7. You're easing off Damian Lillard. You need to be on this guy. You know Damian Lillard can pull from the logo. They call him Logo Lillard. What don't you get, Paul? And the reason why I'm even making this video is because I'm a Paul George fan. I've been a fan of this guy since he got into the league. I love Paul George on the Pacers. I loved him. That's why it hurts me to see you do all this bitch-ass shit, bro. Why? So you let Damian Lillard, one of the best deep shooters in the league, shoot that three in your face. He shot over 30% from those 30-foot shots. Then in the post-game interview, you have the audacity to look the reporters in the face and say, oh, that was a bad shot. I don't care what anybody says. That was a bad shot. Are you fucking crazy, bro? Where is the accountability? That's what a leader does. A leader says, yo, that was my fault. I should have been playing better defense. I should have got both hands up on his face. I should have forced him to take a tougher shot instead of a wide open step back three from one of the best step back shooter, deep shooters in the league. After Stephen Curry, it's Damian Lillard. Then Trae Young in terms of deep shooters. And you left this guy wide open for a game winner when the game is tied. Bro, when the game is tied in Game 7, there's no such thing as a bad shot, Paul George. It's 115 to 115. If he shoots a full court shot, you should have both hands in his face. Because if that shot goes in, they win the game. And that's exactly what happened, bro. Do you not get that? Where is the accountability, Paul? Where is it? You're talking about we didn't practice enough. We had issues. You're a part of the problem. You and Kawhi are choosing when y'all practice. And this is something we've known all season. So you don't get to come around after you guys get embarrassed in the playoffs and say you didn't practice enough. That's on you, bro. That was the first comment that you made in that interview that got me kind of upset. Now we're going to move on to the next comment. Doc was trying to use me as Ray Allen or JJ Redick, strictly off pin downs. I need to play in the flow. I need some pick and rolls. I need some post-ups. That's what he said on the All the Smoke podcast. He said Doc Rivers was trying to use him like Ray Allen or JJ Redick. Once again, I don't respect this because there's no accountability. You're telling me Paul George, star player on the Clippers, doesn't have the autonomy to tell Doc Rivers that he wants different plays created for him? He wants different plays run for him? You're telling me that. You're telling me that Paul George doesn't have the power. He has the power to decide when you guys practice, but he doesn't have the power to decide what kind of plays are ran for him, what plays he think would be most efficient, most effective. You want to wait till the end of the season on a podcast with Matt Barnes to talk about, oh, I didn't like the plays that are being ran for me? Where was this mouth during the season? Where was this mouth during the playoffs, bro? Where was it, Paul? Help me understand. You're talking about he wants to use you as JJ Redick. If you communicate with him and let him know how you want to be used, you're talking about you want to be used in the flow. You want pick and rolls. You want post-ups. Bro, you went 4 for 16 in Game 7. No amount of pick and rolls is going to change that. No amount of post-ups is going to change that. You left your team and you hung them out to dry, bro. You sold. You sold the Clippers in the playoffs. You sold them. 4 for 16 is not getting it done from a star player. That's not getting it done from a role player. Like, what are we talking about, boys? This guy has the audacity to go on All the Smoke podcast and talk shit about Doc Rivers. Yes, Doc Rivers could have performed better as a coach, but you don't have the right to turn around and shit on this guy just because you have beef with him. Paul George and Doc Rivers have beef because Paul George used to date Doc Rivers' daughter, and then Paul George cheated on Doc Rivers' daughter with a stripper. When he cheated on her, he got that stripper pregnant. Not only did he get that stripper pregnant, he left Doc Rivers' daughter for the stripper, and then he married the stripper this year. So him and Doc Rivers have had a strenuous relationship from the very beginning. It's been tension from the very beginning. How would you guys feel if a man cheated on your daughter and got a stripper pregnant? And then you have to coach this guy. It's going to be tense. It's going to be tense. That's why I think Paul George is talking all this shit about Doc Rivers, trying to make it look like Doc's a bad coach. Doc is not a bad coach. Could he have performed better? Yes, I agree. But you don't get to go on this podcast and talk all this shit, bro. Where is the accountability? That's all I'm asking. Where is it? If he has been accountable, Clippers fans, let me know. Let me know, because I'm never afraid to say I'm wrong. Because a real man is accountable. A real man is accountable for his actions and his words. A real man stands behind his word. A real man is accountable for his actions. Paul George is neither of those things when it comes to basketball. What else did he say? During the Nuggets series, Doc kept saying, we'll be all right. He didn't make any adjustments. Bro, you went 4 for 16. How many adjustments can I make to make you not go 4 for 16? What do I have to adjust to make you not go 4 for 16? What do I have to do as a coach that makes you not go 4 for 16? Let me know. You need to work on your communication because you're doing all this talking on the podcast, and I don't know if all this talking was being done during the playoffs because you seem to have a lot to say now. You're saying that Doc didn't make enough adjustments. You're saying that Doc didn't call enough practices. Bro, you are part of the decisions. You and Kawhi make part of the decisions, bro. Y'all are the star players. Y'all need to take accountability. You think if LeBron isn't happy with what Frank Vogel is doing with the team in terms of plays, practices, and how he's coaching, you think LeBron's not going to speak up and make changes happen? He is. That's the difference between Bron, who's a leader and takes accountability, and you, Paul. That's the difference, bro. Your teammates don't even respect you. They're talking about what have you accomplished in the playoffs. They respect Kawhi. They understand why he gets preferential treatment. Not you. Not Mr. 4 for 16. Not Mr. That's a bad shot. I'm a Paul George fan, but this shit is just not cool, bro. You can't go on the podcast talking shit about Doc Rivers. He's a legend, bro. Clippers fans, tell me, do you guys agree with what I'm saying or do you disagree? Am I off? This is just how I'm personally feeling. I don't like when guys don't take accountability and they talk like, oh, everything just happened to me. Why did this happen? Like, no. Nothing in life just happens to you. You happen to life. At least that's the way I feel, boys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We do new NBA videos every week.